Ever been in a perfect setup? You feel so confident, you enter the position, you get stopped out, and then it runs in your favor. It's the most frustrating thing that happens to nearly all traders. Today on StonkCast, we are continuing our mini-series on the Disciplined Trader written by Mark Douglas. If you haven't already, check out last week's part 1 on how traders self-sabotage. Today, part 2, we're tackling a fundamental truth, which is that you don't need to know what's going to happen next to make money. Make sure to stick around till the end, where I will lay out where the true edge lies for traders in these markets, and see a sneak peek on part 3 dropping next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back to StonkCast, the market show for the average Joe. Whether you're a diamond-handed degenerate looking for the next 500% play, or a more conservative swing trader or investor, we've got you covered. We tackle the latest market news, give our 2 cents, and maybe, just maybe, help you make some money along the way. I'm your host, as always, Brandon Shar. Welcome back. We are continuing our mini-series on the Disciplined Trader, written by Mark Douglas. And today, folks, we are diving into the simple reality that you and I do not control the market. I know it's a shocking reality, but it's one that we need to address. So let's jump right in here. You don't control the market, and that's okay. As Mark Douglas said in his book, you don't need to know what's going to happen next to make money in the markets. I think there's a misconception among traders, especially new traders, that they need to predict everything that's going to happen. They need to have some edge when it comes to knowledge that's going to give them an advantage over everybody else. And the simple reality is you're dealing in a market that is by nature unpredictable. Therefore, you can't possibly predict what's going to happen. So we need to approach the market in a different way when we're talking about it from a mental standpoint. Do you ever feel like the market is out to get you? I know I have. You enter a setup and you get stopped out and it rips in your direction. It's really the most frustrating thing. The trader must learn to accept the risk of being wrong, or he will never learn anything. That's what Mark Douglas said, and it's so true. You have to accept the risk of being wrong, and that's the part that a lot of people struggle with. They struggle with being wrong. Nobody wants to be wrong, right? It's not a great feeling. The control trap. So control feels good. It feels safe. Everybody likes control. I love to have control. I would rather be the driver than in the passenger seat in a car, right? I like control. Some people like control a bit more than others, right? You got your type A individuals, but generally speaking, we all, to some degree, would rather have control than not. And the problem is it's a big, big trap when it comes to dealing in the stock market. In the markets, trying to force control leads to these 4 different things. Number 1, overtrading. Overtrading. So when you have something that doesn't go your way, you end up overtrading. You end up taking more positions than you had set out to initially take at the beginning of the day, because maybe things aren't going your way. Right? Or maybe one thing I'm susceptible to is being bored. And when I'm bored, I'm going to overtrade. It's just going to happen. It's unfortunately, the two are linked together, right? And so that's something I have to work on. But overtrading is a big, big problem, especially for newer traders, right? A second one here, revenge trades. Oh boy, revenge trades. So when you're in a position and it goes against you, maybe not necessarily in that same stock, but elsewhere within the markets, very soon you will experience revenge trading. You're mad. You're mad that the market didn't give you what you thought it was going to give you. And so instead, what you end up doing is taking a position somewhere else, trying to get that back, right? Trying to get back those losses. This is something I've experienced, unfortunately, and it's very, very common. Another one here, oversizing your position. So again, this can also tie into revenge trading, but let's say that you're in a position where you're looking to get back losses from the morning, and although you normally put 2% risk on, this time you're going to do 4% because in your head you're thinking, well, I lost this morning. This one for sure should be a winner. Therefore, let me get back my losses. Oversizing your positions, not sticking to proper risk management is a big, big problem. Another one here, chasing perfect setups that don't exist. One thing that is very common with new traders is they get a setup and then they try to add a million indicators to it, assuming that, oh, if I just have this, if I have the MACD and the RSI and I have this stochastic and I have, this volume weighted average price on here and this moving average, you just overcomplicate your charts thinking that there's some holy grail setup that you're missing out on. And the raw reality and truth is that it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. A lot of very, very seasoned, successful traders that I've heard on various, podcasts maybe have three. A lot of them don't even have that. There are some really successful traders, all they look at is the tape, meaning, the time and sales orders coming in, the level 2, what's on the bid, what's on the ask. You have some traders that just look at levels. They have no moving averages or anything. So there is no such thing as a perfect setup. There's never going to be a setup that works 100% of the time. It's just simply not going to happen. So the market gives you what it wants, when it wants, not what you want when you want it. That's not how it works. As I said last week, the market could care less about your welfare. It could care less about what my P&L target for the day is X, Y, and Z. The market does not care, and we have to accept that. So the problem, you're reacting to what you want to have happen, not what is happening. As I said, the market gives you what it wants, when it wants, not what you want when you want it. So accepting uncertainty. So this is important. So if we can't control the outcome, what do we have to accept? We have to accept uncertainty in the market, and that's really uncomfortable for a lot of people, but it's the cold hard truth. Every trade has a random outcome. So that's very important, and I think everyone needs to just kind of dwell on that statement for a moment here, because that is a true statement. Every single trade has a random outcome. One trade that you take, one setup that you take that, was a big winner for you last week, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to be that same exact result the second time around. So every trade is a random outcome. You can have a high probability setup and still take a loss. It's very common. You can have a setup that has a win rate of 70, 75%, but that still means 25% of the time it's going to be a loser. And so therefore you're not going to win every single time. So again, you can have a high probability setup and still take a loss. And that's okay. Great traders don't win every trade. They manage risk and execute consistently. I can't emphasize that enough, how important that is. They manage risk and execute consistently. Some of the greatest traders might as well be machines. And the reason for that is when it comes to their process, they rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. They manage their risk appropriately. They don't oversize. They don't get emotional and try to take on bigger risk because they lost the last one. They have an uncanny ability, the best of them, to see a loss and then to just let it slip out of their mind and move on as if nothing happened. I've heard it said before, and I would venture to agree with it, but some of the best traders, you would never know on any given day if you're talking to them if they were up $1 million or down $1 million, right? Because they are even keeled. They understand the environment that they're dealing in, and they don't get too emotional, right? They stay very, very balanced, very consistent with their process. Managing risk is huge. The real edge comes from accepting that, number one, losses are part of the game. So like I was saying earlier, you can have a win probability of 75%. 75%, you're still going to have losers. So losses are part of the game. And the sooner you accept that, the quicker you can get to a state where you're less emotional about about those losses. A second piece here, outcomes don't define you. Outcomes don't define you. This is really important. So I've heard it said before that, and really I think this is just common sense. Trading cannot be your all in all, right? It can't be your everything. You have to have something outside of trading that gives your life purpose, right? You have to have, family or other hobbies, things like that. It can't be your everything. If it's your everything, then yes, your outcomes are going to feel like they define you. So you need to figure that out for yourself, but you need to know that the outcomes that happen within the markets don't define you. And when you do let them define you, that's when you get in a position where you become emotional and are susceptible to revenge trading, right? To oversizing, to chasing, things like that. Another piece here, your only job is to execute your plan. So Mark Douglas, later on in his book, one of the things that he talks about doing from a practical standpoint is basically having a strategy. It could be very simple. It could be support, resistance, right? Buying a support, selling a resistance, and just to have some very clear black and white rules to a system, and then running that system to a T for 25 trades. And then after those 25 trades, seeing, hey, is it profitable or not, right? And the purpose in doing that is to be able to show yourself that, look, if I do have a winning setup here, it's not going to win all the time, but 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, whatever, it's going to be a winner. And it kind of reinforces the point that you need to execute your plan. That is your only job. You cannot control the moment that you hit that buy button, what direction that stock's going to go. You could hit the buy button because you saw a good piece of fundamental news, and the minute you buy, you have a large institutional sell order that just hits the market and wipes you out. You can't control that. You can't possibly know that's coming, right? So again, your only job is to execute your plan. Trading is not about being right. It's about making money. That is why we trade. We trade to make money, not to be right. Now, you would assume that, well, in order for me to make money, I have to be right, but that's not true. There have been many trades in my, trading experience where I had a thesis, I had an idea, I put it on, quickly realized I was in the wrong, got out, actually flipped the position to the opposite direction, and then was able to make money. So another thing that's really important is being able to be nimble in the market. You don't want to be static and locked into your views. It's very important that you're able to have convictions, but hold them very weakly. There was, I forget the trader, but he said something to the effect of, I have strong convictions held weakly. And I think that is an excellent quote, and really should be the mindset of all traders, because again, trading is not about being right. It's about making money. So we need to reframe our mindset. We need to reframe the way that we view the market and how we interact with it. Your job isn't to control the market. That is not your job. You can control a lot of things in your life. This is not one of them, and you have to accept that. Your job is to manage yourself inside the chaos, right? You have to be able to manage your emotions. The thing that's great about algorithmic trading is that there's no emotions. There's no human emotions involved, right? You tell a system to do something, it's going to do it. It's not going to come back to you and go, oh man, I'm so sorry. I got really emotional. I missed out on this entry and I chased it. No, that's not going to happen with a machine. And so really your job is to manage yourself inside the chaos and become, I would say, more machine-like, in the sense that you're not emotional over the chaos that you're witnessing. And the market is literally that. It is chaos. It is fluid. It is constantly moving. And we need to be able to accept that, be able to accept the fact that, I would venture to say trading is one of the hardest things you could possibly try to do in your life. And I think the reason that I think the stat is something like 90% of traders fail. And I think a big part of the reason of that is because there's a lot of people out there that cannot accept this. They cannot accept the fact that they're not in control. They can't accept the fact that they're wrong on trades. They get mad about it. It's very hard. It's very hard to accept. It's an easy concept to wrap your head around. It's another thing to practically implement it into your day-to-day trading activities. And so, the market is chaos, and this is the type of profession, if you're looking to turn it into that, where you need to be able to be confident in your setup in an environment that is not certain. And that is such a unique situation that really is not applicable to any other industry, any other field, right? So keep that in mind. The edge isn't in the edge isn't in prediction, it's in process. So again, you don't need to predict what's going to happen in the market. That's not your job. Sure, you can we all put trades on because we think, I think this is going to go up or down. You have to have a thesis, of course, but the edge isn't in that prediction itself. It's in your process. It's in how you handle putting the trade on. It's how you handle your catalyst. What are your signals to get in? It's in how you manage your risk, how you're managing the mental game. Are you staying even keeled? Are you getting emotional? What is your process? Do you have one? Are you just willy-nilly throwing on trades? That's not a great process, in my opinion. You need a plan. You need a process. So next week, we will be covering the illusion of certainty. That'll be part 3 of the mini series here, The Disciplined Trader, again, written by Mark Douglas. Amazing, amazing book. He also wrote Trading in the Zone. So if you haven't read that one, that's also a good one as well. I would highly recommend it. Would love to get your thoughts, your comments on really this series, but this topic, right, of not being able to control the market. How do you handle that? What does your process look like? Is process something you've struggled with in the past? Or do you feel like you have a good one in place? How do you combat emotions when they run high? When you're in a position where you're susceptible to, going on tilt, right? As gamblers would say, of revenge trading, putting on too much size, right? Things like that. How do you manage that? I would love to know. I would love to get your thoughts. Keep in mind that we will be back Sunday evening for a market prep for the week ahead. And boy, oh boy, is it going to be jam freaking packed. We got a lot going on between Trump and Elon and Tesla selling off big time, over 14% this past week on Thursday alone. So we got a lot to dig into. It's going to be juicy. It's going to be good. Thanks as always for the support. We appreciate it. And as always, folks, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment, follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, plan the trade and trade the plan. Have a good one.